15 seconds. Yeah. Better yet, turn it on.
At this time, I would like to call to order the board meeting for the Lynn Haven Community Redevelopment Agency for Tuesday, September 22nd at 4:45. Item number 2 is the approval of meeting minutes from September 9th, 2015. Is there a motion to approve?
Also move.
And a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the board? Any from the public? Okay, at this time, would you please call the roll, Mr. Schubert?
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Yes. And so the meeting minutes have been approved. Item number 3 is resolution number 2015-09-02, adopting a final community redevelopment agency budget for fiscal year 2015-2016. At this time, Mr. Schubert, could you please read the resolution?
Yes. Resolution number 2015-09-02, a resolution adopting a final budget for the Lynn Haven Community Redevelopment Agency for the fiscal year 2015-2016 and appropriating for the purposes specified redevelopment trust funds in amount specified for disbursement according to said budget for the fiscal year 2015-2016.
Thank you. Is there a motion that we accept the resolution to adopt the final community redevelopment agency budget?
Also move. Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from the board? Is there any discussion from the public? Mr. Walker?
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue, dealing with the 15-16 budget. In discussion and written information from the staff, I find out that these listings here, basically like the last one issue of 141-315 transfer, this never happens.
Is the microphone turned on where you are, Mr. Walker?
I think so.
Can we hear? Okay, that's better.
Is that better?
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Thank you.
Usually I don't need that, but that's okay. Thank you. Again, the last item, 141-315, transfer. Two things about that. First of all, it says transfer to Main Street. I have not yet found anything listed with the city called Main Street. What I have found is a Florida company called Main Street Incorporated, okay? And I noticed that throughout all documentation dealing with this group. It is a private corporation, so we understand that. But the written thing here does not say that. It says Main Street, which alludes to the fact of what it was as a board, which allows a transfer between CRA to a governmental concerned board. Main Street is not incorporated, is not a board. I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
The transfer, locating these transfers, I tried to track back last year and looking forward to next year, this 141, it will not be transferred unless they use it. You understand? Does everybody figure that one out? For example, I tracked $150,000 through one of the Main Street and CRA transfers that never did occur. Tried to track it back down to, did it get back to the CRA? Did it go back into general public or the general fund? As far as I can see, it went back to the general fund and it disappeared there. But the track to find it, it never did get to Main Street. The project was never finished. Main Street, Florida was never notified that the project was never finished, nor were the CRA people or the people in the town knowing that the project was finished and never done. So the $150,000 which was transferred never made it to Main Street, project was never done, and then it mysteriously gets back to the city. We're looking at a $250,000 improvement going up further here. this is just for general information, but going back to the 250,000, that is a expenditure for phase one of the Sheffield Park. I can assume that. I was not at the meeting last time because I didn't get the information, nor did most people. Anyway, 250,000 is for phase one, which you approved. Phase one is not $250,000. Above phase one is a $45,000 pre-period, which you did not approve. So I'm asking, is this $250,000 improvement including that $45,000 pre-payment for phase one? Is that what that is?
And you're directing that question to city manager? Or to, go ahead.
I'd like to address your first statements, and I'd like to first address them by saying, more than likely, I don't want to be presumptive, but you've attended those Main Street meetings as well as I. I obviously do not have a seat there, but from the conversations, and I think the mayor explained it at length last time very well, is it's going to be a moot point as far as the Main Street probably within the next month or so, assuming they go the route they're going. What we will probably do is a budget amendment before the end of the year, or as soon as they send us a letter with their intents. This budget will look a lot different. There won't be this pass-through through Main Street. So that's going to be a moot point, hopefully, within the next month or two max. As far as, and we go through this every year, you know as well, it's TIF funds, tax incremental financing. It'd be illegal to push those back into the general fund, and it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. We're not ever going to do anything illegal. We're not ever going to do any unethical. That would be highly illegal, and that just doesn't happen. As far as, I'd like Mr. Janke to address because he can do it in more detail than I can about what the 250 includes. I know it also contemplates the two grants that we've also discussed in the last couple of meetings, but did you have anything to add, Ben, or do you want me to handle it? Okay.
Thank you.
The $250,000 includes the cost for the construction plans and permitting.
You get a little closer so the public can hear. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes.
The $250,000 for this, for capital improvements includes the cost for the construction plans and permitting for the Sheffield Park improvements, which is estimated at this point at $50,000, and $200,000 for the construction cost of phase one. Phase one was identified as a preliminary phase during the workshop and outlined in the PowerPoint presentation. The numbers are based on the cost estimate that was given to us from the architect who gave us basically a cost estimate of the individual phases for this project.
Thank you.
I figured that. Thank you. Thank you for the clarity on, and I forgot that you cannot take the TIF, which is a tax, and turn it back into the general fund. So in other words, from what the paperwork I did receive from the staff, it would be returned to the CRA.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Okay, what I see here now, thank you. What I see now is with the initial phases of the Sheffield Park renovation, there are nine total phases, actually 7 defined ones at 200,000, 300,000, etc. What it looks like is if it's done yearly, 7 phases, it will take 7 years to do this. Thank you for being welcome back to the 17th Street ditch. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public commentary concerning the adoption of the resolution? Yes. This is not just general commentary. This is just about this resolution right now. We're in the CRA meeting right now. There's not, oh, okay. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I wonder if Ben could give me an update on item 6 of the last meeting on September the 9th. Unfortunately, I was not here, and I would just really like to know if any of the suggestions that the public made have been included in this new conceptual master plan.
Suggestions that were made during the workshop regarding the Sheffield Park Master Plan have been included in the keynotes of this project. It was part of the agenda packet at the last CRA board meeting, including the drawings, and I'd be happy to provide a copy of these keynotes to Mrs. Walker if you're interested.
Okay. Is there any other commentary on the adoption of the resolution? Okay, at this time, would you please call the roll, Mr. Schubert?
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend? Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. At this time, item number 4, public commentary, just in general about the CRA. Is there any? At this time, I'd like to adjourn the meeting of the CRA. Thank you. At this time, it is 5:01, and I'd like to call the City Commission meeting for Tuesday, September 22nd, 2015 to order. This is a special time for the meeting today because of the public hearings that are involved. To begin our meeting today, we have a very special guest, the Reverend Tom Daniel, who is the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Lynn Haven, and he's going to ask our invocation today. Could you please stand? Thank you.
Thank you. Let us pray. Father, we come today to thank you for this wonderful city we have to live in and enjoy, Lord. It's such a blessing to live here, Lord. Such a wonderful place to work and live and to rear our families, Lord. And we're just so grateful for this place, Lord, and for the fact, Lord, that we're able to come today in freedom and to enjoy, Lord, the fruits of the labors of many who've gone before us. Lord, in the first epistle to Timothy, Paul challenged Timothy to get the church to pray for the leaders. And so, Lord, that's what we come today to do. We ask, God, your blessing on those who lead us, God. We pray that you'd give them wisdom and insight from heaven, Lord, to make godly decisions that would influence our life and our community in a positive way. And, Father, that you'd bless them to be all that they can be for Christ's sake. So, Father, bless this meeting today. Honor it with your presence. And we'll be careful to praise you for how you'll work through us today as we ask our prayer in the name of Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to thank you so much for coming and doing that for us today, Pastor Daniel, a very busy schedule and coming out to be part of our commission meeting. At this time, we have a second honored guest who's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. His name is John Carl Tillman. He is a kindergartner at Deer Point Elementary School, and he's going to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you so much, Mr. John Carl.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I think it would be entirely appropriate to offer applause for John Carl. Thank you. Thank you so much. And then if you don't mind remaining standing, his lovely sister Ruby Grace Tillman, who is a 6th grader at North Bay Haven School, is going to sing for us the national anthem.
Sounds better than what I've been on TV.
If that didn't touch your heart, nothing will.
Every year, I do not want to be on the list of counties and or cities that do not abide by the TRIM laws. So that's what my main concern is. And also, we're going to have a meeting in October. We're going to have a meeting in November. I would think certainly it could happen in October. Main Street's meeting Thursday. If we get that letter Friday or early next week, we could stick it on the agenda to do an amendment to the budget. That's my plan. And the reason I say hope is I can't control these people. Certainly I agree with the mayor that it certainly looks like they're pointing that direction. We just don't have the document. So, but my main concern is getting the budget in total approved in time per state law and remaining within those time constraints that are dictated to us by the Department of Revenue.
Okay, I guess my question then would be, what authority created this Main Street, whatever you call it, board, and who has the authority to disband it?
I believe that was approximately 6 years ago, 5 years ago, and it was. Do you want to speak to that, Ben? I wasn't here, but I believe it was created under the commission, the sitting commission 5 years ago. It was an arduous process.
That's correct.
Well, maybe this is a Rob Jackson question.
Sure, I'd be happy to answer that. The Main Street Board was created by the City Commission, and the City Commission has the ability to disband it.
Okay, so basically if this board doesn't act within the next month or so, I would expect the commission would vote to disband this operation?
I can speak for how the mayor would vote. I'll let the other commissioners speak to you on that.
Other commissioners?
I think the biggest thing we're faced with is a time frame deadline set by the state. Approving the budget as it is now is going to be modified, we know, in the future. I don't think the dollars are going to change. It's just going to be a case of you will probably, you might say, downgrade the Main Street to an advisory board as opposed to a full board. And I think the CRA will pick up the slack on it. So you're going to change some monies between two entities now where one of them is going to go away.
Right. Well,
But that's not going to happen for another month or two.
I understand that, and so I understand the budgeting thing. That's cool, but what I'm trying to find out is, some level of certainty that, if this board does not act, that something will be done, and that's where I'm asking right now
If I could comment one more time, I don't mean to dominate the conversation, but based on what the board said at the last Main Street meeting, I have every belief, I have no reason not to believe what they said, that they do plan to move forward. I think it's just a matter of they are several busy businessmen, and while I would have liked to have thought they would have gotten it together, but apparently they didn't get the letter together. I don't think there was any malfeasance or any ill will.
Well, we're paying the salary of the director, are we not?
Technically,
Yes.
Okay, well, then they should be active if they're being paid for this.
the board members are not being paid.
Right.
The board members are a volunteer. I don't know how to, I'll just have to just bring it to this point that the Main Street meeting is again this week on Thursday at 3:30. I do plan to be there again, and they gave us assurances. I think they're all honorable business people. I don't think there's going to be any problem with this getting solved. Anybody else want to weigh in or comment?
All right,
Can I just mention, too, those businessmen do volunteer their time, and this is no way a comment. They've done some excellent work, I believe. They are still going to do the same excellent work and are still committed to do it just under the guise of the CRA, which, again, eliminates having to file paperwork for 501c3. It eliminates confusing budget issues that I have to explain annually, that while they may be legal, they're confusing.
Right.
They are committed to stay on. They don't move as fast in this group as they would in their private business. And I mean, they all have 50-plus hour a week jobs. So I fully intend, I believe we'll address this in October.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. Walker.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I don't want to go into Main Street 101. I've long since gone past that. I do have one exception to say. Originally, when it was set up as a board, it was a board. It is not a board anymore. This board does not have any jurisdiction over it. It is a private company. It has its own board of directors. It can dissolve itself. Okay. I agree with you, Mayor and City Manager. This situation will go away. And as I stated before, money transferred from CRA to Main Street Incorporated, if not used, will go back. So that'll solve that problem. My question is this, dealing with the CRA, and thank you for abiding with me. The CRA has a trust fund. I think Mr. Shad is familiar with this because we got involved in this when CRA was set up. You have to have a fund, a trust fund. I do not see it anywhere. I cannot find the money. Alluded to back in 2010 when we wanted to do Sheffield Park destruction number 1 was that the city manager was going to use $1.4 million out of the reserve emergency funds. And in that emergency funds was the CRA trust. That's the closest I ever got to find it. It came to approximately $1 million. I do not see it carried over. I do not see it in any location. Does anybody know what's in it? I know where it's at. It's in a bank. How much is there? And why isn't it listed in CRA budget? That's my question.
Okay, thank you.
CRA Trust Fund? That's a new one on me. I mean, Ben, obviously I wasn't here
It's not a trust
when
fund.
that.
Not a trust fund.
Good question, Mr. Walker.
Thank you.
The trust fund balance is listed in the annual CRA report. There's a beginning balance, the revenues of the CRA, the expenditures of the CRA, and an ending balance. And that balance, that is the current balance of the trust fund. So once a year, we issue a report. I think it's in March or April, I think it's online on the city website or on the CRA website, and it's accessible to any citizen.
Thank you. Resolved. Mr. DeFell, question?
Excuse me, Virgil DeFell, 1009 Colorado Avenue, Lynn Haven. A week ago yesterday, the News Herald had quite a lengthy and I thought very informative information about CRA and plans. And Mr. Ben Janke, I commend you. I wasn't in on that direct group, but I have been interested in pretty much everything in Lynn Haven for all the years I've been here. The upgrades four years ago, right here in this very hall, at that time, of course, you know, the commission was all still over on the other building. We had, I'm talking 4 years ago now. So Mayor Margot and City Manager Schubert, as far as I know, well, Mr. Schubert, you were probably still doing your thing working in Tallahassee, and the mayor may or may not have been here. But the point is this. What was discussed 4 years ago included a water park. It included many, many things which could be considered improvements. But I personally, and many others, people that I spoke with, considered that way beyond what would be appropriate for Sheffield Park. So if anyone didn't see this article, or still would, look at it, I am thrilled with what is proposed here. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? And if you would, keep the comments and questions to adopting the final CRA budget at this point. There'll be some time toward the end. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. At this time, we've had a motion. We've had the reading of the resolution. Would you please call the roll, Mr. Schubert?
Motion had been made, yeah.
No motion.
My knowledge.
Okay, I made a mistake. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner Shad. Could I have a motion, please, to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
At the top.
Second.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the board? From the public? Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
He had to leave.
He had to leave.
Commissioner Barnes had a family emergency, so had to step out.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And so this motion has passed.
Need a motion to excuse Commissioner Barnes?
Yes.
I move that we excuse Commissioner Barnes temporarily until he can return.
There's been a motion and a second to excuse Commissioner Barnes for the remainder of the meeting until he can return. Any discussion? Okay. Could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. It is 5:29. We've now adopted this resolution. Okay. Item number 5 is another public hearing. I'm waiting for the time to change. I'm sorry. It's now 5:30 and this public hearing is opened. Item A is the proposed Main Street budget for fiscal year 2015-2016. If we could please have the reading of the resolution and comments from the city manager.
Resolution number 2015-09-630, a resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, adopting a Main Street final budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2015, and ending September 30, 2016, and appropriating for the purposes specified, funds of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, Main Street, in amount specified for disbursement according to said budget. And I would just echo all the same comments that were just made concerning the CRA and Main Street.
At this time, are there any comments or questions from the board? From the public? Okay, at this time, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Okay, please call the roll, Mr. Schubert.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And so the motion is carried and the time is 5:31. Public hearing is closed. Item number 6 is the mayor's report. I do have one activity that I wanted to report on. As we, at the last commission meeting, we had a proclamation recognizing and promoting the event for National Suicide Awareness Week. And there was a walk which was held on Bailey Bridge. There were approximately 200 people who took part in that walk. It was well attended, and it was a very nice event. They would like to have the event again next year in Lynn Haven. They want to make it even bigger. They were quite pleased, and I thought that the park and all really served the purpose well. The second part of my report is just the contact with our schools, and I sort of alluded to that in the beginning, that, and I hope that you feel the same way, how important it is to include children in government, to let them learn about the process and to be part of it. And so our Lynn Haven students are going to be participating, as well as our local pastors for the meetings. And then the final part of the mayor's report is in this coming Saturday at Porter Park as well. We will have the cardboard sailing regatta, which registration begins at 10 o'clock, and all school-age children through college are welcome to participate. It's going to be a lot of fun. These are actual cardboard sailboats, which the children will be, and the older students will be sailing. There are many awards. My favorite one's called the Titanic Award, which is for the best sinking. So it should be a lot of fun. I hope you can all come out, and that's all I have to report. Commissioner Shad?
Last week, I attended, along with the mayor, a meeting of the Northwest Florida League of Cities. That is an organization that runs from just west of Tallahassee, all the way over to Pensacola. And what they do is they rotate where they meet, but they are all elected officials of various cities. So we were very honored to be able to host them here, and the meeting and the dinner that night was in Roberts Hall. And the people that did attend the meeting were very, very impressed with what had been done with Roberts Hall. Matter of fact, some of them were amazed at what they saw. And our staff did an excellent job of serving as hosts and taking care of those people, and we got a lot of compliments on the thing. So the dinner was very nice. That is a very worthwhile organization, and I'm hoping our mayor sometime in the future can become a part of it. You would benefit from it greatly.
I appreciate that, Mr. Shad. I was under the impression I was already a part of it.
You are, but to be on the board.
Thank you. Commissioner Ashbrook?
Got a couple of things. Not usually in the habit of announcing surprise parties, but Howard Steele, I don't know if any of you know him. There's a good number of you here that do. Didn't know he was Buck Jr., but he's been around 33, 4 years, something like that. Good friend of Charlie Smith. And he's been before the commission on a number of occasions, usually to present us with the announcement that teams that he's been integrally involved with in our community. And on basketball, he's brought a lot of name recognition to the city of Lynn Haven. So they're going to have a surprise. I don't think anybody will tell him, but they're going to have a surprise celebration for Howard on Thursday, September 24th at the Lynn Haven Sports Complex, Sports Center. So the public is invited to come out and wish him well. Thank him for a job well done. He has been a great cheerleader for the city of Lynn Haven. and has done many, many good things. And I know some of you out in the audience know Howard. You've seen him come with the basketball teams and tell us how well they've done on a regional and or state level. Matter of fact, we might have even done something nationally with some of the basketball teams. The other thing is related also to the sports complex, an announcement. I intend to be there Friday morning, but I'm going to go back on Friday afternoon just to have an exciting drive out to the west from the sports complex, because I understand the access road is going to be open. And for all of you who have tried to get in and out of the sports complex with grandchildren or children over the many, many years, it might not be quite as death-defying an event pulling out on 390, because ingress and egress will now be available on Aberdeen as you leave over toward the Preble Rish office. So all the folks now can get on and off of 389, Moat Highlands, Hawks Landing, all of those complexes that are part of Lynn Haven. So come out, and if you don't have any reason to be out there, at least maybe make it a point in the next couple of weeks to drive down there and enjoy the fact there's another way to get out of the sports complex. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I just let everyone know that I did attend the long-range planning workshop along with a lot of folks here and the mayor. We had a great crowd. There's a couple more that's going to be held in Bay County, so if you missed this one and you wanted to see what's in store for the long-range plan that extends out to 2040, it's really a good presentation. But a surprise was given to us at that point as well, because an official from Bay County shared with us that they had applied for and received the grant for the adaptive lights that we talked about a few months back in a commission meeting. There's a difference between the controlled lighting system and an adaptive. Okay. Adaptive being more computer related. And I had mentioned at that time that there was 2 in Bay County. Those were test sites, and that the county had applied for a grant for us on 77. And I think that that's just a wonderful system. And so for us to be able to put that on 77, I think at this point that's all we can really do to try to help some of the congestion on 77. So that's really, really good news for us here in Lynn Haven. We appreciate Bay County doing that for us. And no time frame was given, but I'm sure we'll hear more about that in the future. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to call for the city manager's report.
I've only got 2 items. One, if you didn't see it on Facebook or on our website, these meetings are now streaming online, and they are archived. So
back to the surprise, Commissioner Ashbrook.
Yeah. So hopefully he's not surfing, but that's a huge asset. I mean, for the times, for the folks that can't physically make it out there, if they do have a computer and they do have access, and certainly, I think that's a huge benefit. So that's great. Also, as far as the website, I did ask staff to put my phone number. I think half the city has my cell phone, and I would encourage those folks here, call me. If there's an issue, please call me. I mean, you've got 5 great representatives here. I'll get involved at some point. I'd like to try to do all the heavy lifting for them I can while keep them well informed as well. And certainly if you have an issue with me, please call them as well. But I'd sure like to take a first shot at any issues you have with the city. So I did ask them to put my phone number online to that end. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 9, the city attorney's report.
No report.
Thank you. Moving to number 10, which is the consent agenda. Number 10 is the minutes for the September 9th regular meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? There is none. Commissioner, Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And the meeting minutes have been approved. Item number 11 is approval of the parade route for Mosley High School Homecoming Parade on October the 14th at 1 p.m. Is there any information from staff before I?
This is the typical route that they submit each year. We, of course, submit the application, and we have no issues with it and recommend approval, and go Dolphins.
Is there a motion from the board?
I'll move approval.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Is there any question or discussion from the public? And there is none. Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. Moving on to new business. Item number 12 is a discussion and possible action regarding approval of subordination of city utility interest agreements for parcel number 167.4 CVS and parcel number 163.2 Elliott's Auto Collision. Is there any report from staff regarding this?
Rob, did you want to handle any legal
Sure, yeah.
issues with this?
Yes, Mayor. This is basically there's two subordination agreements, and what has happened is that the city has utility easements over these two parcels at CVS and Elliott's Auto Collision. As part of FDOT's expansion of 390, they need to get onto those parcels. So they have agreed to move our utilities and pay for it, or we would move it and they would pay for it in exchange for us agreeing that they can put their stuff over the parcels, the easements.
And just one point of clarification, and this is a inadvertent error on our part. It says Elliott's, but it's Precision Collision. It's, of course, the intersection right down there across from the drugstore, as mentioned. Also, we still are, I'd mentioned too, we just had a meeting with DOT a couple of weeks ago. We're still in talks with them, not with easements per se, but right-of-ways, and there is a property we do own that will be subject to the widening of 390, which this is a part of. So we continue to work with them and trying to broker a deal where this to mitigate as much impact as possible. And that, I might add, that's something that the CRA/former Main Street will be looking at as well.
Yeah, this is a very good deal for the city. Otherwise, we would have to pay for that relocation, and you're talking probably $1 million plus than that.
Maybe at this intersection, I'm not sure what that total will be, but certainly with that 6 lanes plan going forward, that's certainly a conversation that I continue to have with them about mitigating those costs, because those have been estimated upwards of $500,000 to $1 million. So hopefully we'll be able to offset those with right-of-way and property sales.
Are there questions or discussions on items of discussion for number 12? Anybody from the public? Any questions? Okay, at this time, Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
I don't remember.
Wait, there's a motion. Sorry.
I'll move
Is there
approval.
a
I'll
motion?
move approval.
Thank you.
I'll
It's been a
second.
long meeting. In a second. There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please call the roll, Mr. Schubert.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. I apologize for that, gentlemen. That's right. Item number 13 is the public commentary. Does anyone have anything they would like to bring up? Mr. DeFell?
Virgil Duffell.
Duffell. I got it.
Duffell.
Accent on the first
In
syllable.
fact, Mayor, about 20 years ago, we had in Lynn Haven a plan for a dream playground at Porter Park. I don't know if you ever noticed, but your mother's name is there as one of the committee members, opposite mine. So I look with great pride in what I see accomplishments here in Lynn Haven. And I'd like to add to a couple of those. This chamber, we have some of us know already that there's a lot of information, interest in national and local politics. And it's just I have mentioned this, I believe, before, but I would hope that some of our candidates, and if something that would be, of course, have to be approached the city, and that might be approved when we would have candidates for state senator, for example, or others. So I just want to mention that one item. Now, on a different note, for years, off of 389 12th Street, a resident there died about 4 years ago, happened to have been a friend of mine. And just in the last week, things that home had sat there with an old car. And I know the neighbor had called, and I had called. In fact, I called Mr. Brown, our code enforcement person, and left a message to commend him, because there was actually off the side of the street a pile that had been in that home for all those years that was probably the equivalent of the whole, I almost said dais here, and 5 feet high. Now, I don't know if the city charged anyone for that or not. I really am not too concerned, but I just want to make note of what a superior job was done in cleaning that up.
Thank you.
And lastly, I am a dinosaur. I have no email. I have no interest in Facebook. I have no computer in my home. It's my fervent wish, and this will probably come true, that print media will outlive me. I am concerned about that. So, Mr. City Manager, some of us don't do Facebook or email or any of that. But I invite you to occasionally make use of the printed page, and particularly on almost everyone in this city gets a utility bill for water, we call it. And not to overuse it, but occasionally something of really major importance might appear there. Thank you.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you. Are there other comments or questions today? Yes, ma'am. And I believe that the last meeting, Mr. Duffel, the city manager has agreed to start putting commission meeting times and other items on that utility bill. He did say that he would do that. So
I think the
that's
last
coming.
thing we put on there was the new hours. I think that was a suggestion we did.
Yep.
Yeah. We use it quite frequently.
Miss Nancy?
Yeah, Wicked Witch of the West.
I don't think so. Go ahead.
Nancy's, IKA Nancy Singleton, 402 Wisconsin. First, I owe you, Joel, an apology. I looked at you when I was actually speaking to a couple of other members of the board in the treatment of that woman. I think her name was Amy. And I owe you more than one. I have started sitting up front and in the middle, not my favorite place because I want to hear everything. I was missing half of everything in the back. It was my problem, not yours. However, the audio has improved. Although we spent more than $6,900 moving it from the other building, and I would think they would have fixed it for free, did they?
We had to add audio because this is obviously different acoustics and it's bigger. So it was more than just moving, it was adding equipment.
Adding what?
Adding equipment. The majority of that cost was adding the equipment and not moving the old equipment.
We paid for the TV, $7,000
Sure.
for the TVs.
I would love to get you an invoice of everything, and we have that. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, neither do I. I didn't bring
Well, all you have to do is if you want it, we can get it to you.
I have it.
Oh, okay. Well, then you know. I just don't have it in front of me.
Okay. No biggie. The peace sign was at the last time I spoke.
You're going to need to talk in. Can you talk into the microphone, please? Thank you. Just there you go.
Okay. The peace sign, the last time I spoke, was because I thought I was done and finished. But here I am again. C'est la vie. I read an article about a month ago, was going to mention it at the last meeting. Now, this was written a month ago.
Okay.
At the last meeting. But the atmosphere was amiable and things were getting done, so I just stayed quiet and enjoyed it. The article was about Bay County and ditches, code violations, and being shorthanded. My understanding is that the county takes precedence over cities. So isn't Ronnie's dumping sand in a ditch and leaving it there for 4 months a code violation. I guess that's one for you, Robert. I think Ronnie should be taken to the woodshed, especially since his attitude was one of tough sugar. So, Robert?
Ms. Nancy, could I interject just for a second? Because if you would, if this is a complaint about one of the city employees, if you would come and schedule a meeting with the city manager and have that conversation privately, so we don't mention anyone's name out loud in the commission
Okay, I
meeting.
won't
Is that
mention his name again, but was it a code violation?
And I'm not. Are we talking about sand that was dumped in your ditch, or is this the same? I'm confused. I'm confused as to
Okay,
what.
that's why I asked Robert. He's the
Mr.
lawyer.
Jackson, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I'm not clear what you're asking.
I'm asking if it's a code violation to dump things in the ditches.
I mean, that could be a code violation. That could be a code violation, yes, ma'am.
It could be a violation?
I mean, without knowing the facts, it's hard to say. I'm not the code enforcement officer.
Could we schedule a meeting for you to come in and speak about it with the city manager? I'll be glad to be there as well.
I suppose so.
Okay.
I do have another question that is not referring to this.
Okay, I'm not trying to cut you short, but bring it to a point, okay?
It shouldn't take more than 2 minutes.
All right?
It's for Rodney. Have you moved back into Sutherland yet? I have information that says you reside on North Bay Drive in the county. I actually, because I have paperwork on this, went by myself. I drove down to Sutherland to see if it looked like anyone was living there. It does not. It does not look like there's any activity there. And the utility bills are way low for someone having lived in the building.
Okay, well, I appreciate your concern. I think we've addressed it over and over. I don't really have anything else to say about it. I'll be glad to get with you one-on-one if you'd like.
No, I'd rather do it publicly.
That's fine. I don't have anything
So
else
you're
to
saying
say.
you've never moved or lived anyplace else besides Sutherland?
I don't.
You don't
I'm not
reside
gonna,
on
I'm not
Bay
going to go
Drive?
back and forth with you, Miss Nancy. I've addressed it. I meet the.
If you get a little farther away from the mic, it will be clearer.
Okay, Ms. Nancy, at this point, I think the commissioner has said he's not going to say anything more. So there are other ways you can address your question, but it's not. He's saying he's not going to answer any more publicly. Is that correct?
I'm sure that's true. Would anybody else like to have the information?
Ms. Nancy, thank you for your questions, okay? Thank you. Is there anyone else who has commentary or questions today? And there appears to be none, so this meeting is now adjourned.